Greetings, my dear friends, and welcome to another episode of Reading Epic Threads. I'm your host, Patrick Gunnels, joining you from Spring, Texas, this September 18th, 2024 at 3:31 p.m. Central Daylight Time. I am live as of right now. Thank you so much for being here. Do me a favor and smash that like button. Hit the subscribe button. I am on the Patrick Gunnels Rumble channel, just P Gunnels on Rumble. And right now, I think I have like 31,500 subscribers, but that number has been declining and I haven't gotten a single new one. So there might be some shadow banning going on there. Oh, sorry. 1 second. Let me go ahead and turn the ringer off on my phone so I can do my show and we can get started. Now, this is going to be an Erik Carlson extravaganza. And why is that? I'll tell you why that is. That is because I made a mistake when I announced what I was going to be doing next. I thought there was a new Joe Lang, which I always get to immediately when they come out. And Joe's piece isn't until tomorrow, and it's going to be the one on Benghazi. I've really been looking forward to that one. It's just killer stuff. So if you could make sure to check out that one tomorrow as well. And so what I'm going to do is I've been so backed up lately. I haven't gotten to a bunch of different Erik Carlson pieces. So the first one I want to do is called What Will Big Pharma Do Now? But before I do that, I'm going to do a quick video from our sponsor, Epic Minerals.
He said something that really hit home about this phenomena of chemtrails.
Manganese will make you kill your mama. How much manganese are you spraying in my neighborhood at night while I'm asleep?
Military and some commercial jets have been fitted with huge barrels of at least 49 different kinds of documented chemical poisons. Barium is toxic to all mammals. Aluminum is known to diminish kidney function and destroy brain cells and cognitive function. A problem, a serious problem.
Patent number 5003186 describes cooling the Earth with metal oxides sprayed into the stratosphere.
And I thought, well, geez, this is what I do for a living. I was finding tons and tons of large quantities of aluminum, barium, strontium in the forms of oxides and sulfates. Instead of protecting the people, we are poisoning the people.
Detox and prevent heavy metal poisoning. www.epicminerals.net. Promo code Shapiro. That's right, guys, for 10% off and to let me know that you do care that I read Epic Threads on this channel. I'm going to be doing another spot during the middle of this show, but I have learned something that I didn't know because I never tried it. Wellness Extra is not just the pill form of the Zeolite Extra Spray. No, this is a very, very different thing. It contains N-acetyl-L-cysteine. It contains vitamin D. It contains L-glutamine. It contains 600 milligrams per capsule, or is it 2 capsules? Yeah, 600 milligrams per 2 capsules of the humic and fulvic acid. And guys, I've been taking it for a few days, and it's really, really good. So to make up for the fact that I have let you down, not letting you know just how good this stuff is, I'm doing a buy one, get one half off special. And if you use promo code Shapiro, it's an extra 10% off. But it is buy one, get one half off on the Wellness Extra capsules from Epic Minerals. And guys, it's like freaking natural Adderall. I should have been taking it first thing in the morning every single day. But my afternoon dose is coming up right before dinner. And good times shall be had. But without further ado, let's go ahead and do this piece from Erik Carlson. This is from ericc.substack.com. And see how far behind I am? September 2nd, 2024. What will Big Pharma do now? Will RFK Jr. change everything? By Erik Carlson. Prior to the Trump and Kennedy announcement, I said that Trump and RFK Jr. wouldn't announce their alliance until Kennedy had POTUS-like security in place. Why? He'll be going after Big Pharma like no one has ever done before. Days after saying so, Biden's administration removed Kennedy's Secret Service detail. Do I think this is real? No. I think it's a matter of patriots being in control, trying to make these deep state puppets look bad to the public. But I do believe Kennedy will be commissioned to go after Big Pharma in a big way. Before getting into things, I'd like to state my personal rules for being healthy. 1, lift weights every day. 2, do cardio every day. 3, the vast majority of what I eat should have one ingredient: eggs, meat, milk, fruit, vegetables, etc. Generally, the more ingredients it has, the more I should avoid it. 4, manage stress by getting more control over my life wherever I can. 5, avoid big pharma products like it's the plague. I'm probably only 90% compliant with the food, but 99% with the others. By the way, I recently heard Dr. Lane Norton on Andrew Huberman's podcast say studies show that lifting weights only twice a week at 25 minutes per session is roughly 5 to 6 times more effective than antidepressants. I'm just going to say as an aside, I totally agree with that. I don't lift weights nearly as often as Erik does. I need to. I'm getting 3-4 times a week. But another thing is I'm focusing heavily on my core lately because I think it helps. And with flexibility, which is another thing I'm working on, I think I can increase my longevity. Sorry for the aside. The dismantling of Big Pharma, besides possibly trying to assassinate Trump and Kennedy, how will Big Pharma react to the attacks that will come against them? But first, let's set the stage a bit. Does anyone remember broadcast TV before Big Pharma commercials started to be run? Just like everyone else, my whole life, I've kind of just gone with the flow, rolled with the punches. While I rolled my eyes over things I thought were odd, I shook off the befuddlement and moved on. It's how we are conditioned to react to anything that causes a red flag to go up in our heads. I suppose some people don't even have those red flags. They accept anything told to them by the box in their living room without question. In 1997, regulations were relaxed, allowing Big Pharma to run ads on broadcast TV. At the time, most of us probably thought it was somewhat amusing with all the possible side effects that they would read off at the end of the commercials in what seemed like 4 times speed. It was somewhat alarming to see those early ads. But then it became so prevalent that it barely stood out anymore. Antidepressants that may cause suicidal tendencies, sleeping aids that may cause insomnia, stool softeners that may cause constipation. It was as if they were trolling us. Today, Big Pharma ads make up 75% of broadcast TV's advertising revenue. It's not that 75% of the ads we see are Big Pharma. That would be too obvious. They pay more than other companies to run their ads. But why would they pay more to run their ads? It's not because their ads are more controversial and broadcast TV therefore requires them to pay more. They gladly pay more, but why? It's so that they can control mainstream media without us noticing. By generating 75% of broadcast TV's ad revenue, Big Pharma controls the media. They don't even need to pay people to push lies in the media, although they likely do. The threat of simply removing their ad revenue is more than enough to keep everyone with a voice to be heard and a platform to be heard on in line. I honestly believe a lot of the Big Pharma commercials we see on TV are just excuses to fund the media. If the media is controlled by Big Pharma, the media won't say anything negative about Big Pharma drugs, allowing doctors to prescribe multiple drugs to patients for whatever may ail them, or rather for whatever perceived ailments they might have. Running ads does make it easier for doctors to push drugs on their patients because they recognize the drugs and have built in happy feelings about them. The ads have perpetually smiling users of the drugs. It's mind control. Take drugs, be happy. I don't mind if I do. Just kidding, just kidding. But running the ads isn't completely necessary. The only people who need to be convinced by Big Pharma are the doctors. Patients are conditioned to take whatever drug their doctor tells them to take. They won't actually make lifestyle changes advised by their doctors, but they will gladly take a pill or pills. And remember, no one makes money when a doctor tells a patient to take a brisk 30-minute walk every day, except maybe Nike. Now, when I see an ad for an eczema drug run for the 10th time during a football game, I realize, yeah, they want to sell the drug, but they are running the ad excessively because they need to get their ad spending up. They have to keep that ad spending up to control the media. No one is going to bite the hand that feeds them. If Big Pharma keeps the media's pockets full, no one is going to write an article critical of the drug industry. Nobody is going to run a story that questions the effectiveness or side effects of the drugs people take on a daily basis. What happens when RFK Jr. is unleashed on the drug industry? Remember when they started removing smoking from public places? Airplanes, bars, restaurants, movie theaters, places of work. Smokers must be 25 feet away from an entrance. California was the first state to ban smoking in public places in 1995. Over the next few years, other states joined in. Does anyone think it's a coincidence it began right around the time Big Pharma ads started running on broadcast TV? Was this a transition? Back in the 1990s, big tobacco was viewed much the same way many see Big Pharma today. Evil. Today, around 11% of Americans smoke cigarettes. In 1965, 45% of Americans smoked. With a 4 times lower rate of Americans smoking, what did big tobacco do to compensate for this loss? They diversified. When it became apparent that a big push by government to get rid of smoking in public was going to occur, big tobacco had to transition elsewhere. Where did they go? Processed foods. Now, big tobacco owns many processed food companies. Big tobacco transitioned from making people sick through smoking to making people sick through junk food. There's not a lot of big pharma drugs that can be used to treat lung cancer, but there are plenty of big pharma drugs that can be sold to treat the symptoms of metabolically challenged people. Obesity and type 2 diabetes rates really took off during this time. Drugs could be sold to mask symptoms caused by obesity, type 2 diabetes, as well as allergies caused by food. If you control the food, you control the food allergies. If you make people fat, you can sell them drugs to deal with it. What is the old adage? Problem, reaction, solution. You create the problem to sell the solution. Two industries working hand in hand, big food and big pharma. You can't as easily justify selling drugs to people who aren't sick. Now it makes sense why big tobacco was so willing to allow the percentage of smokers to become a fourth of what it used to be. If you recognized big food as being big tobacco, it all makes more sense. What will become of big pharma with the political changes that will occur? People will obviously still need some drugs. I assume big pharma will lose some of the control they have over the media and people will be able to question the industry again. I assume the number of drugs on the market and the propensity to prescribe drugs for anything and everything will start to diminish. Doctors will become more liable and more responsible for what they prescribe. Big Pharma will be held accountable. If RFK Jr. cleans up the food industry, the need for drugs to mask the symptoms of metabolic damage will naturally dry up. How will Big Pharma transition out of needless and in many cases harmful drugs? I assume they will do what Big Tobacco did: diversify. I will look for big pharma to buy up companies to transition away from their drug pushing. I'm not really sure what sectors they'll buy up. Will they buy up properties and become America's biggest landlords? Their COVID hoax killed commercial real estate. Will they now gobble up those properties on the cheap? Again, I haven't wrapped my head around what industries big pharma will look to take over. I'll keep an eye out for this to see where their next grift will occur. Who knows? Without big pharma's control over broadcast television, maybe TV will actually become watchable. That is from Erik Carlson. That's ericc.substack.com. That's ericc.substack.com. I'd like to thank the three of you who are currently watching on the Reading Epic Threads YouTube channel, and the one of you, Uno, who is watching on YouTube, and the 71 of you watching on Twitter, and of course the 174 of you currently watching on Rumble. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up on Rumble, guys. All right, let's troll around for some more Erik Carlson. How does that sound? Let's see if he put out anything. Look at this. So September 2nd, what will Big Pharma do now? And then at ericc.substack.com, fake news, many times it's more about what they leave out. And I just want to remind everybody, I hadn't been taking this stuff because I thought it was just pill form of zeolite extra spray. It's not. It has the humic and fulvic acid in a big dose. It has NAC, N-acetyl L-cysteine, L-glutamine, and it has vitamin D, 1,000 IUs. Now, guys, I started taking this just recently, and it's like energy boost like you wouldn't believe. And the only reason I even know that is because my wife ran out and she freaked out. She said, no, I need this stuff. This makes my life just easier. epicminerals.net, promo code Shapiro for 10% off. And now buy one, get one half off of the Wellness Extra capsules. Bear in mind, it is for pre-order. We expect shipment from our factory to take place in the next few days, and then it takes about another week. So get it now. Orders are brisk, to say the very least, because I had no idea what I was sitting on here. Right after this show, I'm taking my next dose of Wellness Extra. Okay. Next, from Erik Carlson. From ericc.substack.com, fake news. Many times it's more about what they leave out. By Erik Carlson. While scrolling through Yahoo Finance today, I came across this September 6th article by Reuters. Headline: More than 90 company executives endorse Harris for U.S. president. Washington, Reuters. More than 90 company executives, including the chief executives of Yelp and Chobani, as well as the former CEOs of PepsiCo, Pep, Ford Motor Co., and Yahoo, endorsed U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris in a letter released on Friday. The group, which includes top sports and investment executives, said they were confident that the Democrat who faces Republican former President Donald Trump in the November 5th presidential election would continue to bolster the economy and preserve American democracy. Quote, Harris has a strong record of advancing actions to spur business investment in the United States and ensure American businesses can compete and win in the global market, they wrote in the letter, first reported by CNBC. She will continue to advance fair and predictable policies that support the rule of law, stability, and a sound business environment, and she will strive to give every American the opportunity to pursue the American dream, the group added. Among those backing the vice president were billionaire Mark Cuban, former 21st Century Fox CEO James Murdoch, and Irvin Magic Johnson, according to the letter provided by the Harris campaign. Laureen Powell Jobs, head of the Emerson Collective and widow of former Apple CEO Steve Jobs, also endorsed Harris, as did the former chief executives of Merck, Aetna, GoDaddy, Blackstone, and Starbucks, among others. End quote. The key here is 90 current and former executives. It's pretty obvious that all of these executives are as deep state as they come. And everything said is utterly ridiculous, but I want to focus on the desperation here. 90 executives. They intend for this to appear to be a lot. It's not. For reference, there are 33.2 million private businesses in America. 20,000 of them are large corporations, 500 plus employees. Let's just forget about the 33.2 million private businesses and just focus on the 20,000 large American corporations. Let's assume that every large American corporation has only one executive. That would mean 90 out of 20,000 are endorsing Kamala Harris. 1 out of more than 200 executives is publicly endorsing Harris. Let's assume, on average, the 20,000 large corporations have 4 executives. Remember that executives don't necessarily just mean CEO. Oftentimes, there are many other executives as well, and sometimes there are multiple CEOs. Averaging 4 executives per corporation, this would put the number of executives endorsing Harris at 1 out of more than 800 executives. What did we learn here? Disinformation isn't just about telling a straight lie. It's more often about framing narratives. It's more often about withholding information that is important for the customer, for the consumer of that information, to make an informed decision. An example: the government reports 250,000 new jobs created, but they fail to mention that 1 million full-time jobs were lost and 1.25 million part-time jobs were created, netting 250,000 jobs added. By not including this important information, the consumer reads the report as evidence of a healthy economy. The mainstream media manipulates everything, and nothing should be taken at face value. Everything must be taken apart and studied from multiple angles. With this article, they have influenced the reader to believe a lot of executives are backing Harris, when in reality the opposite is the case. It's all about context. It is more likely that 1 out of 200 to 800 executives are actually supporting Harris. And that is the latest on ericc.substack.com. I don't know if it's the latest. Hang on. Just to make absolutely certain, it's not quite the latest. Ooh, there's another one called Woke University Term. 1 second. Okay, let's go ahead and get to that one as well. And we'll get to that one, and then we'll get to his latest from Badlands, the Badlands Substack. ericc.substack.com. Woke University Tour. Are They All This Bad? By Erik Carlson. A few months ago, my wife and I realized that our older son, who was finishing up his sophomore year of high school, hadn't really talked about what he wants to major in at college, where he might want to attend college, or any future plans for that matter. Not a big deal, but we thought maybe we should start to get a bit proactive on the matter. We gave him a summer project to think about subjects that interest him and look into what colleges have good programs in his areas of interest. We also thought it would be a good idea to visit a few universities of different sizes so he could get a feel for it. We could visit small, medium, and large university campuses to see where he feels the most comfortable. Being lazy, we just visited the first university on our list, Western Washington University. WWU is traditionally a pretty liberal college that currently has around 15,000 students. This was to be our mid-sized college campus visit. This visit was more about the size of the school than the actual school itself. Arriving on campus on a beautiful early September day, we waited for the tour to begin in the Student Rec Center. 2 female college students led the tour and started off by introducing themselves to the group and by giving us their pronouns. Immediately, I was irritated. I took a deep sigh, rolled my eyes before settling on the probability that they have to give their pronouns to appease the crazy people. After this, they did their public acknowledgement that the university is built on former Native American land. They actually have to say this at all school events in Washington State, so this wasn't anything new to me, although it is still annoying and beyond ridiculous. On our way to Bellingham, where the university is located, we passed 3 or 4 Indian casinos. I have absolutely nothing against American Indians. I actually feel for them as a people and appreciate their traditional culture. But let's not act all holier than thou and morally superior by demanding acknowledgement of their former land when their tribes made deals with the government, allowing them to rake in money by preying on people's addictions. Let's face it, as bad as California is, they don't have to acknowledge that California was once a part of Mexico every time people gather there. At least I don't think they do. Maybe I shouldn't be giving them any ideas. I also think it is ridiculous to have a black national anthem played before NFL football games. Why don't they have one for every other group that's been marginalized or treated badly in America as well? We could have a national anthem played for the Chinese, the Japanese, the Mexicans, the American Indians, the Irish, the Italians, the Jews. We could have an hour of national anthems played before every sporting event. Why just the blacks, and why are the Native Americans the only group that has been given a cash cow like casinos to operate? I digress. While on the campus college tour, the guides mentioned that there are separate dorms for blacks and the LGBTQ+, to which my son said to me, "Isn't that segregation? Isn't that what America is trying to get away from?" I told him it was for the crazy people who can't live around other groups of people. Most of the black students and gay students will live with the other students on campus. These segregated dorms are for the people who can't function in environments where people might be different and have different beliefs, morals, or opinions. These segregated dorms are for the people who can't tolerate others. You see, we are forced to appease the people who lack the skills or desire to tolerate others. This made me think about when my family went to Disney World and Universal Studios Orlando in October of 2020. This was obviously in the middle of the COVID hoax. They scanned our foreheads and made us wear masks while forcing us to sanitize our hands to the point where our hands became slimy and sticky. We did this to appease the crazies who feared they would die from being in the presence of other human beings. Now, let me ask you this. Would anyone who was deathly afraid of contracting COVID and dying be at a crowded amusement park? So essentially, no one at the Crowed amusement park was afraid of dying from COVID. Maybe Cowed amusement park? Crowded. So essentially, no one at the crowded amusement park was afraid of dying from COVID. Yet we all had to mask up in 85-degree, 85% humidity weather and get scanned by a temperature gun that probably didn't even have a battery in it. In other words, we all did this stupid crap to appease people who weren't even there. Does this make sense? The precautions we have to take and the crazy stuff we have to do is to appease the crazy people who aren't going to leave their homes anyway. Being unvaccinated, my family couldn't attend sporting events or eat at restaurants in order to appease people who refuse to leave their homes anyway. If you are afraid of getting COVID by eating at a restaurant, you would Uber Eats the food instead. It's like playing rap music at a venue before a country music concert. Who are you trying to appease? After the tour of the campus, my son said he would never attend that college because it's too woke. I told him the purpose of us going on the tour was more about getting a feel for the size of the campus rather than the college itself. And it's possible all universities are now this woke. I don't really know. I haven't been to college for a very long time. Before getting back to our car for the long drive home, my son and I went back into the student rec center to use the bathroom where we began the tour. As we were walking by the gym, I was telling my son that this school might not be any stranger or more woke than any other universities. Literally, as I was saying this, a muscular trans person with blue hair wearing a sports bra walked by us. My son and I just laughed at each other, and I said, "I think that might be a sign from God that this isn't the right school for you." And that, my friends, is the latest from Erik's from his blog, ericc.substack.com. And now we're going to check out his work from Badlands. And then we'll wrap up the show. How does that sound? Guys, don't forget, it's buy one, get one half off wellness extra capsules. I hadn't sufficiently gotten on this stuff, guys. Now that I've been on it, only prompted to it because when my wife ran out, she said, well, when are we getting more? Because I basically had to go to the drugstore, not the drugstore. I went to a CVS, you call it the drugstore, to get her an L-cysteine, a NAC supplement to kind of like get her through. But if you don't take it with the humic and fulvic acids, it doesn't have the same effect. So, don't know what to say about that. All right. Let's go ahead and do the latest from the Badlands Substack. Don't forget, by the way, promo code Shapiro for 10% off. All right. From badlands.substack.com, the media is the enemy of the people. Most media companies aren't actual businesses. By Erik Carlson. Shortly before a second assassination attempt was made on Donald Trump's life, Trump posted on Truth Social, "I hate Taylor Swift." Some could have read this as a hateful, if not immature, statement by a 70-something-year-old billionaire towards a 30-something-year-old billionaire. Some may have read this post and rolled their eyes and thought, why must you always draw negative attention to yourself? What must be understood is that everything Trump says has meaning. Everything he communicates has a purpose. When Trump appears to be drawing negative attention to himself or doing what some think is putting his foot in his mouth, he's actually setting a trap or drawing attention to something or someone he wants the light shone on. It's time people who think they know better, that continue to want to give Trump advice on how to present himself, simply shut up. Trump knows exactly what he is doing. When will you finally figure this out? Every time he seems to have made a misstep, it doesn't backfire on him. It explodes in the deep state's faces. How many times does this have to happen before it sinks into that brain of yours? That's Erik attacking you personally, not me. When Trump says he hates Taylor Swift, in all capital letters and with an exclamation point, he is actually drawing attention to her. I believe when he says he hates Taylor Swift, he's actually saying he hates the machine that created her. Taylor Swift is an American intelligence agency creation, created to influence, if not brainwash, young girls and effeminate men. Swift is a role model to many future childless cat ladies 20, 30, and 40 years from now. Many lifelong Swifties, at this point middle-aged women who chose not to get married and not to have kids, will be sitting in their studio apartments listening to old Taylor Swift music, celebrating with a margarita at 11 a.m. on a Sunday morning, convincing themselves they are thankful they chose the path in life they chose to live. No responsibilities, no one to tell them it's too early to be drinking and that they have too many cats. Obviously, not everyone who idolizes Taylor Swift is going to end up here, but enough will be influenced in some way. Notice all the talk about cats lately. It's not a coincidence. It all ties together. You see, Trump doesn't hate Taylor Swift, the empty shell that she is. He hates what she represents and the influence she has on millions of young women. He hates the cabal system that created her. He hates the girls that are being influenced. He hates that girls are being influenced and manipulated into pursuing unfulfilling lives. He hates the media and the people who control it and manipulate it. Bread and circuses. The expression bread and circuses goes back to the Roman Empire. The expression was coined by a Roman poet named Juvenal. He used this expression to describe how the Roman Empire kept the people under control. The leaders believed if they could keep the people fed and entertained, the people would be more easily controlled. If one lacks hunger pangs and one is preoccupied, it's amazing what you can tolerate without standing up and demanding change. The cabal still uses this tactic successfully today. They give welfare, food stamps, and other financial assistance to the poor, just enough to keep them dependent on the government and to keep them from rising up against the system. The working and middle classes, they keep preoccupied and entertained through TV, movies, video games, music, and sports. But today it goes beyond just distraction to include manipulation and mind control. It's interesting. Polling shows that the elite consume much less media than the lower and middle classes. While bread and circuses were very successful during the Roman Empire to keep the citizens under control, it lacked a few things that we now have today. Today, there is a better understanding of the human mind and how to manipulate it. To wit, Carl Jung, Sigmund Freud, Freud's nephew, Edward Bernays, developed and perfected techniques that could be used not only to keep people from thinking, but to change how they think. With the techniques available to manipulate how people think, they now needed a way to get this messaging out to the masses. This would require unlimited funding and a dedicated and powerful group to facilitate this operation. The unlimited funding came from the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913, and the facilitation of this money kicked into high gear later with the creation of the CIA. With the creation of the Federal Reserve, the cabal now had the ability to print money out of nothing, backed by nothing. This created an unlimited supply of funding. The money created by the Federal Reserve would be paid for by the inflation it created, passed on to the people. Truly the greatest scam of all time. Notice at the same time the Federal Reserve was created, Hollywood and national radio took off. The CIA was formed in the latter half of 1947. During the decade of the 1950s, homes with a television went from 9% to 65%. By the early 1960s, the majority of Americans had a TV in their home. It was at this time that the CIA's Operation Mockingbird is believed to have started, a covert operation in which the CIA started funding members of the media to push forward messaging the CIA wanted the public to consume. Music, movies, TV news and entertainment, newspapers, magazines, much of what the public consumed was being funded, created, and manipulated by the CIA. No one would have suspected it, but the group that was created to protect America from foreign enemies was actually controlling Americans through its news and entertainment. It wasn't until Donald Trump started using the phrase fake news that most people even considered that the information they received on their TV might not be the whole truth and nothing but the truth. It's a stark reality to accept that you've been manipulated your whole life. I've written about this before, but every aspect of the 1960s American culture was created and controlled by the CIA. Music groups were created by the CIA. Counterculture groups were created by the CIA. The CIA was heavily involved in the civil rights and women's rights movements. They even created serial killers and political assassins, anything and everything to control America through fear and division. If anyone stood up to the CIA, they simply took them out, either by assassinating them or by assassinating their character. It was smooth sailing for the CIA for decades, until the birth of the internet. It was at this point that they had to pivot and deal with what was like a Wild West to them. They lost control of the narrative. This is why they created Google and Facebook to better control what information people found and what they said online. If you remember, it was at this time that people started to stand up to the government, which meant the government needed to crush them. Not only to make an example for anyone who might consider standing up to the government in the future, but to paint anti-government groups as crazy, hateful, and violent people. It is not a coincidence that in the early 1990s, when the internet went public, we also had Ruby Ridge, Waco, and by the mid-1990s, the Oklahoma City bombing. Here is the mistake that many people make about the media. They think it is a business. It's not. They think it needs to be operated like a business. It doesn't. The media is nothing more than a device to preoccupy and manipulate. The CIA doesn't care where the manipulation and control comes from, broadcast TV, newspapers, or online, as long as the manipulation and control occur. With the dawning of the internet, newspapers and magazines began to die. The CIA decided its money and attention were better served controlling the internet rather than print, because the internet is where people were now getting their news and information. The newspapers began to die off because the CIA was no longer funding them so abundantly. Media companies are not real businesses. With a real business, a company needs customers. If people don't buy a company's goods or services, the company goes out of business. It's not like this with the CIA-controlled media, as we have seen with CNN, MSNBC, and even Fox News. While their ratings plummet, they continue to exist. While their ratings fall, they continue to push the same disinformation, even though their customers have shown they don't want to consume it. No real business is run this way, because they would go bankrupt, but most real businesses don't have the government funding them. 2024 will likely be one of the worst years for the number of movie tickets sold. In 2020, they shut down movie theaters, so it's easy to understand why it was so bad. But there's no reason why 2024 has been so bad. No one is going to the movies because Hollywood isn't making movies worth watching. People don't want to see woke movies, and Hollywood isn't allowed to make the movies people want to see. How are movie theaters still in business? This year, there were maybe one or two summer blockbuster movies. In the past, one or two came out every week of the summer. What about music? I understand this isn't everyone's music genre, but I use this as an example of how things were and how they are now. In 1991, in a 44-day period, these 7 legendary rock albums were released. Metallica's album, Metallica. Pearl Jam's 10, Guns N' Roses, Use Your Illusion 1, Guns N' Roses, Use Your Illusion 2, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Blood Sugar Sex Magic, Soundgarden, Bad Motorfinger, and Nirvana, Nevermind. I haven't bought a record in years, but I bought all of these CDs within a month and a half. I understand that music is consumed differently today, but I can't be alone in asking what happened to rock and roll, to music in general. Are woke policies stunting creativity? Have certain genres been left to rot on the vine while other genres are being pushed by the CIA? Genres like pop and hip hop and artists like Taylor Swift and Beyonce. God created Elvis Presley. The MI6 and CIA created the Beatles and Rolling Stones. This statement probably ruffled a few feathers. Only God can create, the devil can only imitate. The Beatles were an imitation of Elvis. John Lennon said it himself, without Elvis there would be no Beatles. He might have added, without MI6 there would be no Beatles as well. Elvis spent his evenings singing gospel music into the late hours. I don't think I've ever heard a Beatle once mention the Christian God that the majority of Americans profess to worship. Taylor Swift is Gen Z's Beatles. Now, I'm not saying their music is comparable, just that they were created in a similar fashion for similar reasons by similar people. Media companies don't need to make money like a traditional real business. I believe in some cases, advertising is simply money laundering, and it is used to control companies. Currently, 75% of revenue on broadcast TV comes from Big Pharma. Does Big Pharma really need to promote their products this much while they have the whole government and medical community in their back pocket? No, but they do need to control what the media says about them. Hence, they have become the media's biggest sugar daddy. I believe it's not just about control, but it's also about money laundering. The CIA is the biggest gun running, drug running, and human trafficking operation in the world. The money that is created through these illegal activities needs to be laundered. Advertising is an excellent way to launder money. How does one quantify advertising's effect on people? Billions of dollars that go into advertising could influence sales. But again, how do you quantify it? That makes it a perfect vehicle through which to launder money. How about the farce of social media sites making all their money through advertising? The bulk of what many of these mega corporations generate really comes from the CIA. Think about it. How does Google make money from someone using their search engine? It's like Starbucks making money when someone sets up shop in one of their stores using their internet and bathroom without actually buying anything. Google and Facebook exist because the CIA created the technology behind them and funds them. Their job is to control what is being found and said online while collecting personal information that they pass on to the CIA. Advertising is used to provide cover for how they make so much money. Advertising is like the money generated from the money laundering car wash on the TV show Breaking Bad, while the real money Walter White makes comes from the meth he cooks. Money created out of nothing by the Federal Reserve, plus money generated by illegal activities like trafficking, must be laundered some way. Why not launder it through an industry that can be used to control the people as well? A win-win situation. It is said that the CIA created modern art as a means of money laundering. No, Hunter Biden is not an artistic genius. And no, a banana duct-taped to a wall is not worth millions. Anywhere the value of something is subjective makes it a good money laundering tool. Ask yourself, how is it possible that YouTube stars make so much money? Yes, YouTube is used to preoccupy people, but it's also used to launder CIA money. When the internet first came out, it was considered a place where all information was available at one's fingertips. It was like having the Library of Congress at our fingertips, but instead of using it to educate ourselves, we just use it to access the latest edition of People magazine. Within a matter of years, the bulk of the internet bandwidth was being used to look at porn and cat videos. That ocean of information we have available to us online has been siphoned off into a tiny tide pool, where most people now spend the bulk of their time. Remember when Elon Musk bought Twitter? He immediately lost around 60% of his advertising. Did he? Or did the CIA just no longer fund Twitter through the advertising of companies they control? We later found out how involved the FBI and CIA were in Twitter, controlling what could be said and shadow banning some while kicking others off the platform altogether. Is it a coincidence that when the FBI and CIA were kicked out of Twitter by Musk, that the advertising also dried up? Again, is advertising a CIA money laundering operation? How does one wrap this up? Let me start by reiterating that it's not a coincidence that once the cabal created the Federal Reserve, creating an endless supply of free money, Hollywood was built in Southern California. It's not a coincidence that Operation Mockingbird occurred shortly after the creation of the CIA. Unless you are over 100 years old, your whole life has been spent under the media manipulation by the cabal. Trump doesn't hate 30-something-year-old billionaire cat ladies. He hates the system that creates and uses people like them. He hates that Americans are misled on their paths to fulfillment. He hates that a system is in place that enslaves both of us, that enslaves us both physically and mentally. When Trump says he hates Taylor Swift, he is saying he hates the cabal that runs the world. Trump hasn't had 2 attempts made on his life in 2 months because he makes controversial statements. The deep state is trying to kill him because they fear he will bring down their system. The Pope said to vote for the lesser of two evils in the upcoming election. I will be voting for the man the satanic cabal desperately wants dead. And that's our show, y'all. Hello. I want to say hello to those of you who spoke in chat. Bonnie's Trumpet, hi. Good to see you. AJC the Third, good day, Patrick and fellow Threadheads. Love that demonym. Thank you so much. The Gentle Cores, woohoo, watching this live on YouTube. Hang on, let me just check. Bro, I don't remember which one you're on right now, but I'll tell you this. You are one of 9 people watching on YouTube. I was able to quickly add up the 6 and 3. So good job. And Babbage 3, nice to see you. Moi Koi, checked in at 4 to find nothing happening. Now I missed just about everything. Moi Koi, that's my bad. I just was running late today. But you can go back and watch the whole thing. And then did I get everybody? I think so, yeah. Some days are just big into the chat. Some days are not. But anyway, don't forget, get the Epic Minerals Wellness Extra. Buy one, get one half off as my way of saying, gosh, I sure am sorry that I didn't tell you about it. I'm going to take my Wellness Extra right now. And Dan in Alabama is also in there. Good to see you too, Dan. I really do want to be more interactive with the chat. So, those of you. All right, I'm going to take my Wellness Extra. Go to epicminerals.net. Promo code Shapiro to pry 10% from my grasping hands. And then when you do that, buy one, get one half off. It's another 25%. So it really adds up, guys. This is the time. And this sale will end Monday at 10 a.m. Central Daylight Time. Taking my Wellness Extra with my Starbucks. Yes, I got Starbucks. I bit the bullet and got Starbucks. What can I say? All right, y'all. I think that's our show. Thank you so much for watching, and let us pray. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all evil spirits who prowl about the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. I love you all. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you tomorrow.